Good evening, doctors. Welcome again. Today we are going to discuss here about pharmacology MCQs. 17-year girl, primary amenorrhea, short girl, height is 135, short stature, broad chest, poor breast development, normal external genitalia, rudimentary ovaries, 45X diagnosed. So, firstly, in this question, this is a case of Turner syndrome. So, what is the best drug for her? Somatrim is not we are going to treat here with this drug because she is already 17 years old. Oxandrolone is a steroids also not useful here. So best drug in this case of Turner syndrome is ethinyl estradiol for 1 year, followed by ethinyl estradiol plus medroxyprogesterone acetate. Why ethinyl estradiol for 1 year? Because if you give continuously this estrogen, it causes mainly endometrial cancer and endometrial hyperplasia. And somatrim, we are going to start with somatrim if the baby is age around 3 to 5 years, and if there is no development till 10 to 12 years, we are going to add this drug oxandrolone. Okay, now 16-year girl, irregular periods, internal 22 days and 4 months, hair growth on her face, extremities, abdomen, and breast. Best drug for her. So, firstly, there is a triad. This is irregular period first, and second one is hair growth and facial hair hirsutism, and so two are sufficient criteria here to explain this is a case of PCOD. And if you do USG or whole abdomen or ovaries, you see uh, necklace of pearl appearance, multiple cysts. So this is a case of PCOD. So they are asking which one is the best drug in PCOD. If you give ethinyl estradiol or norgestrel, this is not true. Danazol uh, aggravates the hair growth, it causes hirsutism, so both two options are eliminated, and the best one option is desogestrel with ethinyl estradiol. Why? Because this desogestrel has a less androgen effects. Okay, so this is the best drug of choice in case of PCOD. Amenorrheic patient had pituitary ablation for craniopharyngioma regimes results in ovulatory cycle. So after pituitary ablation, they want to ask which drug you give for ovulatory cycle. This clomiphene citrate work I am going to explain you. This is hypothalamus, this one is pituitary, and these are ovaries. And this clomiphene citrate needs an action towards hypothalamus, then it needs pituitary, so pituitary is absent, so this clomiphene is not a good choice. For this pulsatile GnRH from hypothalamus, GnRH, this is all false statement. GnRH if you give, then pituitary is absent, so this is not effect in producing ovulation. And this continuous GnRH is also same. In human menopausal gonadotropin, yes, this is absolutely an LH FSH which is produced by ovaries. These are artificially, but this alone is not sufficient. We have to give human menopausal gonadotropin LH FSH followed by gonadotropins. Why? Because chorionic gonadotropin is LH hormone, which requires for pregnancy also. Okay, now 27-year-old female, gravida 3, parity 0, at 38 weeks admitted, active labor, cervix 5 centimeter dilated, and fetal head is 0 station of fetal heart rate tracing reactive. 2 hours later, cervix 6 centimeter dilated. So in this MCQ, the normal cervix dilatation every hour is 1 centimeter. So in 2 hours there is only 1 centimeter plus. So this is not an active labor. Fetal head plus 1 station. Doctor starts a drug after making the diagnosis following signaling pathways most likely mediate the therapeutic efficacy of the drug. So which drug doctor start here if the cervical dilatation is less not in physiological. So in that situation, a doctor start with drug that is oxytocin, which responsible for uterine contraction. Okay, so in this scenario, in this MCQ, they want to ask oxytocin mechanism of action. So this is phosphonicitate hydrolase. This is phosphoinositol pathway, we can say. Now, 32-year-old woman, mild hypertension, 160/90 on OCP, ethinyl estradiol and norgestrel 2 months earlier. Doctor prescribed ethinyl estradiol and drospirenone, increase excretion of iron after few days of therapy. So guys, I hope it's clear. MCQ. Remember, mild hypertension, OCP on ethinyl estradiol nor gestrel, and then he start ethinyl estradiol and dosperenone to increase excretion of which iron. You know guys, what happened, this estrogen mainly act as like aldosterone, so they are doing increase sodium retention and decreases potassium excretion. So in hyponatremia here occurs, that's why there is hypertension. So in next when he prescribe ethinyl estradiol, they decreases the dose of estrogen, and drospirenone is a progesterone, and it acts like an spironolactone drug, uh, aldosterone antagonist like activity. So it inhibits sodium and increase absorption of potassium. So in this scenario, there is a loss of sodium, so increase excretion of which ion, so there is increase in sodium excretion. If sodium is excreted more, it responsible for decrease in hypertension. So I hope here this MCQ explanation is clear. So we see increased excretion of sodium. And last MCQ, consider the true prolactinomas in pregnancy. True about treatment begins soon, pregnancy diagnosed. So prolactinomas, if asymptomatic, no treatment required. Asymptomatic prolactinomas need no treatment in pregnancy. This statement is correct. Breastfeeding not contraindicated in patient with prolactinomas. Yes, breastfeeding sometime contraindicated if patient is taking medication, but here not mention only prolactinomas, so breastfeeding is not contraindicated. Bromocriptine acts by D2 agonism. Yes, maximum drugs which are responsible for shrink prolactinomas, they are acting by bromocriptine pathway, like D2 agonism. And cabergoline is the drug of choice in pregnancy. Taking prolactinomas, no, this is not a drug of choice in pregnancy. So guys, thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, put like on it. Thank you. Good day.